You are welcome to the Messiah Revelation channel, prophetic channel dedicated to end times. I'm doing a discussion on what is happening in Burkina Faso, what is happening to Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, who is Captain Ibrahim Traore. He is the leader of Burkina Faso, a country in West Africa. He's a revolutionary leader. He came to power 2022 and pursued dramatic transformation of Burkina Faso. He pursued policy of indigenization, putting development of Burkina Faso in the hands of the local people and the indigenization, and also disentangling Burkina Faso from the shackles of colonialism, that is decolonization, and he also projecting the independence and sovereignty of Burkina Faso. In other words, he's pursuing anti-imperialist revolutionary agenda, both domestically and also on the international front. And as a result of that, he has been a target of many attempts to dislodge him from power and also to take him out. And there is something particular about Captain Ibrahim Traore. He was born the same day that another revolutionary leader was deleted with the assistance of France. And that leader was Thomas Sankara. He was also a soldier and he was a nationalist. And so it's not a mere coincidence that Captain Ibrahim Traore will be born the same day that Captain Thomas Sankara was deleted in Burkina Faso. And so what we are observing in Burkina Faso is a policy of Sankarization. I'm using the word Sankarization, using the name Thomas Sankara, the leader who started the revolution in Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara changed the name of Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. Upper Volta was the name of Burkina Faso. The country was named after a river, River Volta. River Volta runs from Burkina Faso up and down to Ghana. River Volta is the largest river in Ghana. And lo and behold, a nation was named after a river. And that is the um, the the rationale of Burkina Faso, a nation that was previously named after a river. Thomas Sankara changed the name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. If you ask anybody from Burkina Faso what is the meaning of Burkina Faso, they will tell you it means a proud people, people who are proud, people who have um, um, respectable history. That's Burkina Faso. So Thomas Sankara's spirit is working in Burkina Faso. His vision is working in Burkina Faso, and Captain Ibrahim Traore is the torch bearer of revolution, transforming Burkina Faso from a neo colony to a sovereign, independent state, nationalizing the resources, the natural resources, pursuing a policy of education and free maternity care in Burkina Faso. Because of what he's doing, he has been an enemy of the Western imperialist forces. So on April the 30th, 2025, as you are aware, there were demonstrations all over the world in New York City, in Paris, in London, in most African countries, in the Caribbean, people showed solidarity um, with him because they know that he's a patriot, he's not a puppet. And the whole thing began when a black man from America, a black general, made a comment that is um, unfortunate. I would say it's unfortunate because he accused Ibrahim Traore of using the resources of the nation to self-aggrandize and to perpetuate his rule in Burkina Faso. But that comment um, should be taken with a pinch of salt, because anytime the West sees a black man who is a patriot, they have to give a dog a bad name so that they can hang the dog. So if you look at all African leaders who are nationalists, the West, particularly the United States, they give a bad name so that the leader will be deleted. And this the case of Captain Ibrahim Traore, who is loved over the world, and he is the standard bearer for African leadership. And he is no puppet; he's a patriot. And so on April the 30th, 2025, the whole world showed solidarity um, with Burkina Faso and with their leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore. Captain Ibrahim Traore has become a symbol of resistance. And when we're talking about resistance, we are talking about people who are being subjugated over the world, racially, politically, economically. And the whole world is aware that a new dawn is rising in Africa. The men and women who were not alive when African leaders were killed, when they were humiliated, now they are aware, and it's because of the phenomena of the social media that has galvanized support from peoples of African descent over the world, because they see what is happening in Burkina Faso, and they were old enough to see what happened to Muammar Gaddafi, who was a Pan-Africanist, who was a nationalist, and who was taken out by the United States. And you are aware what happened to Libya, and you are also aware what is happening in Burkina Faso. Um, we'll be looking at it in a prophetic context, because if you look at Zechariah chapter 1 verse 18, the prophet lifted up his eyes and he saw the horns that scattered the children of God, the children of Judah. The prophet Zechariah also saw carpenters who were sent by God to dismantle the horns, to destroy the horns who scattered the children of God. So we are living at the time when the horns, the Gentile horns, the nations that met in Berlin in 1884 to 1885 to divide Africa among themselves and to neo-colonize Africa. Their time is up, and that's why you see France being desperate with regard to her spoils in Africa, with regard to the stolen resources in Africa, and France being a major gold holding nation, even though they don't have gold mines, thanks to their new colonial activities in Africa. We cannot talk about Burkina Faso under Captain Ibrahim Traore without talking about French policy in other parts of Africa. And we take Guinea as an example. At the time of independence, there was a referendum in French West Africa, and the referendum asked a question. When you get your independence, do you still want to associate with France? Yes or no? Every country in French Africa said yes. Even if you give us independence, we still want to be your friend. We still want to be your slave. We still want to associate with you because we love French. We want to speak French. We want to put our money in French bank. We want you to be our mentor. We want you to support us. We want you to tell us how high we can jump. It was only Guinea that said no, because Guinea under President Sekou Toure wanted total independence. And when they said no, France punished Guinea. They took away everything that they brought to Guinea. Electric poles were taken away. Even typewriters were taken away. At that time, people were using typewriters. They were not using computers. In order to punish Guinea, France took away typewriters from Guinea, took electric poles, because they wanted Guinea to go down, to be destroyed for having the audacity to say no to France. It was the benevolence and philanthropy of Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah that saw Guinea surviving in the face of French harassment and French destabilization effort. Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah, gave Guinea an assistance, 10 million pounds sterling, British pounds, 10 million pounds. And if you calculate the money from 1960 up to this time, you know how much you will get. Ghana was not giving the money to Guinea with any interest, and they were just dashing the money to help a sister African country survive when that sister African country wanted to take a bold stand against France. So that is Guinea. We can also look at what France did in Nigeria. Nigeria was not a French colony, but at the time of independence in 1960, Nigeria was on the verge of a civil war, and France, together with Israel, the state of Israel, the 1948 state, they were involved in the civil war in Nigeria, in the sense that they were supporting the forces of disintegration because they were interested in seeing Nigeria dismembered and decimated, weakened, so that Nigeria will not be a strong nation. For Israel, it makes sense because Nigeria had a large Muslim population, and Nigeria was also a country that supported independence in apartheid South Africa. And Israel did not like that because Israel was supporting apartheid South Africa. And for France, the French people did not want a powerful Nigeria that would be a competitor to France in West Africa. France didn't want a powerful Nigeria, the most populous black nation in the world, to dominate French hegemony, to dismantle French hegemony in Africa. So France was on the record of supporting the forces of disintegration in Nigeria, because it was in the interest of imperialist France to maintain her imperial rule in West Africa. We should also not forget Belgium, what Belgium did in Congo. Belgium, as a colonial power in Congo, saw to it that Congo would not be educated. Because if you have an educated populace, then you get resistance. So it was a strategy to keep Congo uneducated. So at the time of independence of Congo in the 1960s, there were less than 12 people that had a bachelor's degree. The way to keep somebody subjugated, a slave, is to keep him down. Don't educate him. Don't let him get education on his own. And if you educate him, you miseducate him. And that's what happened in Congo, a country that had less than 12 graduates at the time of independence 1960, 12 graduates with a bachelor's degree, bachelor's degree. And so you're looking at a country with less than 12 people with a bachelor's degree, compare it to University of Paris with so many graduates, compare it to University of Massachusetts with so many graduates, compare it to University of London, so many graduates, but a whole country, the nation with a lot of strategic materials being exported by the West, they made sure that only few people get educated. And that is the reason why Walter Rodney wrote the book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And then we have to come back to Burkina Faso. At the time of independence, since the time of independence up to the time that Ibrahim Traore took power in Burkina Faso, there, there were few paved roads, less than 4,000 paved roads, around 3,600 paved roads in Burkina Faso. Why? Because it was a French policy not to develop the infrastructure of her colonies, because the colonies were just colonies for exploitation, not colonies for development. And Burkina Faso under Captain Ibrahim Traore is seeing a lot of transformation. Being the patriot as he is, Ibrahim Traore has promised to at least develop 5,000 kilometers of paved roads every year, compared to less than 4,000 kilometers of paved road since the time of Burkina Faso's independence in 1960. In talking about roads, we can also go to Liberia, where Americans who colonized Liberia were only interested in tapping rubber in Liberia to make car tires. They were not interested in infrastructure development. They didn't develop roads in Liberia. It was during the time of President Ibrahim Babangida of Nigeria when Nigeria provided a highway to the people of Liberia. They went and constructed a highway in Liberia. And so that is the policy of imperialism and neocolonialism. And France did the same thing to Haiti, exploited Haiti, used the resources of Haiti to develop France. And at the time of independence of Haiti, the enslaved people of Haiti had to pay reparation to France. Why? Because France lost business. The businessmen lost their business in Haiti when Haiti was given independence. They lost their business of slavery, and the enslaved Haitians had to pay reparation to the former slave masters, the French, instead of the other way around, where the colonial powers had to pay reparation to the people who they enslaved. We are talking about Burkina Faso and why they are doing that to Ibrahim Traore. He's lifting up Africa, but you have to understand that it is the policy of the West that anytime there's an African who is lifting himself up and lifting Africa up and lifting black people up, he has to be dislodged, he has to be deleted, he has to be dismantled. And what is happening in Burkina Faso is just a continuation of what has been happening in Africa from the time of Patrice Lumumba, who was assassinated. His only crime is that he was a nationalist. He was sitting on gold, he was sitting on diamond, he was sitting on uranium, and he wanted to use those resources to help Congo. But by doing that, he became an enemy of the West. And so the West, including America, Belgium, France, they colluded the um, in the deletion, the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. That happened in 1961, and you can read about it. The United Nations was even implicated in the arrest and the murder of Patrice Lumumba in 1961. United Nations was involved. You also have to remember what happened to Ghana and Nkrumah. He was tricked. Dr. Nkrumah, the president of Ghana, the first black nation to get independence from England in Africa in 1957, he was tricked. He went to Hanoi on a peace mission when there was the Vietnam War, and when he was out of the country, the imperialist forces, including the United States, the CIA, they staged a coup, and Nkrumah was overthrown, so he could not return to Ghana. And when he went on a peace mission in Hanoi, when there was a war between Vietnam and America, Nkrumah wanted to be a statesman to prevent war, to stop the war, and they took advantage of his absence from Ghana to stage a coup in 1966. And you have to remember that Nkrumah also became a threat to the interest of the West. He became a threat to the interest of the West. And so in 1965, NATO had a special meeting on Nkrumah, and the subject of the meeting was how to deal with Nkrumah, who became a threat to the West, and to NATO. He wrote a book, Neocolonialism: The Last Stage of Imperialism. By writing that book, he became a threat to NATO. So they had a special meeting in NATO about Nkrumah in 1965, how to stop a black man from lifting up his country, lifting up Africa, and lifting up people of African descent, lifting black people over the world, a symbol of unity, a symbol of resistance, a symbol of pride, the black star shining in the world. He became a threat in the same way that Captain Ibrahim Traore has become a threat. And in 1965, NATO had a special meeting on Nkrumah, how to take him out, and they took advantage of Nkrumah going to Hanoi on a peace mission. And in 1966, February 24th, 1966, Nkrumah's government was overthrown. What is happening to Captain Ibrahim Traore is just one of the pieces of events and episodes where you see the West reacting to a black leader who is rising. And you have to look at what happened in the United States, where Ija Hoover, who was the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation had a policy of disrupting, preventing the rise of, quote unquote, a black messiah, a black leader, a black liberator. So you ask yourself a question: what happened to Elijah Muhammad? What happened to Malcolm X? What happened to Dr. Martin Luther King? What happened to Marcus Garvey? And what happened to them is what is going to happen to Ibrahim Traore if the Lord is not on his side. And so on April 30th, 2025, there were demonstrations in New York, in Paris, in London, in most African countries, in the Caribbean, and people of African descent, they showed their solidarity. They said, enough is enough. Ibrahim Traore will go down in the Guinness Books of Record as being the leader who has been the target of assassination attempts, dramatic, 20, and still counting. Within 2 years, 20 attempts to take him out. Why? It's because he's not a puppet, he is a patriot. He is a visionary, somebody who wants to see his country develop so that his country would take her proper place in the assembly of nations, will no longer be a new colony of France. It will be independent. And France is not happy about it. The West is not happy about it, because if Africa is disentangled from France, France will become a third world nation. It will result in what I will call terrorization of France. Terrorization of France. France without Africa will be a third world nation, because it was part of the neo-colonial policy of France to dominate the businesses of Africa, to put the African leaders in the pockets of French presidents, to put African money in the Bank of France, so that Africa will not have control over their own money, so that their colonial master, their puppet master, France, and the presidents of France will control Africa. Of course, that is neocolonialism. Neocolonialism is a term that was used by Nkrumah. He used the term neocolonialism. He wrote a book about it. And when the book was published in 1965, the West didn't like it, and as a result, he was overthrown in a coup d'etat in 1966. Resisting oppression, resisting neocolonialism has a price. Gaddafi paid the price because he wanted to unite Africa. He showed the Arab world what they should do with their resource oil, and he became a threat. And so he was taken out with the help of the CIA. He was taken out. The same thing happened to other leaders in the Caribbean, whether you are talking about Haiti, whether you are talking about Congo, Angola, and so many other places. The leaders who are patriotic, they become targets of assassination, and Ibrahim Traore is not different. And so this is the context in which we should look at what is happening to Burkina Faso and what is happening to Ibrahim Traore. And this is the political and geopolitical analysis of what is happening to Ibrahim Traore and Burkina Faso. So this is part one of my analysis. I will do part two, where I will focus on the prophetic implications of what is happening in Burkina Faso, what is happening in Africa, a renaissance happening in Africa, a rebirth of African nationalism, African pride, at a time when the final trumpet of heaven has sounded, at a time when an African nation, West Africa, is on the verge of being the richest nation in the world based upon revelation that has been given to me. So I'll do a part 2 of my analysis of what is happening to Burkina Faso, what is happening to Ibrahim Traore, and its prophetic implications for Africa and the peoples of African descent. I'm leaving my email in the description box, raptureafrica@yahoo.com, one word, small letters. Thank you. Share the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.